Right, we're back on.
Or go into the garage, just like degaussing.
They're listening
All
to you.
right, we're going to reopen the CIP meeting with Diane.
Russ.
Russell,
Yes, I'm back.
with the cone of silence has come down. We are now talking to the town planner, Diane Hardy. Anytime you're ready, my dear.
Okay, thank you very much, members of the committee. My name is Diane Hardy, and I'm the town planner here in Newmarket. And this is probably the 10th CIP process I've been involved with here in Newmarket, but it's the third time that we've actually asked for funding for a planning activity here in town, since I've been here anyway. And we are asking for $10,000 this year, and for the next 6 years for the town's master plan. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with our planning process here in Newmarket, the master plan is one of the activities that's mandated by state law for the planning board in the town to complete. And under the state RSAs, or state laws, it's indicated that a planning board that has zoning must update its master plan every 5 to 10 years. In addition to that, when we did the charter amendment here in Newmarket in 2014, I think it was, one of the amendments that was passed in that year was that the town update the master plan no less frequency than once every 10 years. And as some of you may know, the master plan is supposed to be sort of the blueprint for the future, and it's a guide to, or it's a document to guide future development and growth in the community. It's a prerequisite in order to have impact fees and zoning regulations and other land use regulations. And it's also a requirement for impact fees. Did I mention that?
Yes.
Okay. So it is something that's very important. It's a comprehensive document, and it includes certain elements that are required under the state law. And off the top of my head, if I can remember all of them, it needs to have, first of all, a vision statement. It needs to have an existing and future land use section, a section on housing and transportation and community facilities, I think, are the mandated. There are other sections that are optional for the planning board to adopt depending upon their interests. And one of them is cultural resources, and we do have a cultural resource section which addresses historic preservation, architecture, the character of the community. Another section that is allowed by the RSA is an energy section, and I know some of our neighboring communities, I know Durham has an energy section in their master plan. But all of these components work together and intertwine and provide guidance for long-range planning decisions, as well as more, immediate planning concerns. And the master plan also provides some information on needs in the community and becomes part of the capital improvements program. So the capital improvements program is supposed to be based on the master plan, and there has to be some relationship. The planning board has done a great job since I've been here in updating different sections of the master plan. If those of you have gone online and have seen the master plan, it's a fairly lengthy document. It is indeed comprehensive. The original plan, which was updated in its entirety, was in the year 2001. And every year, or every 18 months, the planning board tackles another section of the plan, and a lot of it's driven by whether there's funding available, what the urgent needs are as identified in the community at that time through the visioning process. And it's something that should be reevaluated on a regular basis and kept up to date. And so, anyway, given that, we have been trying to set aside $10,000 a year so that in the year 25-26 we'll be able to do a comprehensive update of the master plan that looks at all of the various sections and weaves them together. Just most recently, the planning board updated the existing future land use section. We had a visioning session, not last spring, but the spring before. And we just this summer updated and passed the future land use section, which is a critical component because that really lays the foundation for your zoning work. And part of those recommendations included feedback that we had received from the local Economic Development Committee, and there's some specific zoning changes that the Planning Board is now going to be working on to move forward with the agenda, if you will, or the goals and objectives of the master plan and of the future land use section. So we also work very closely with consultants and often interns and with our partners over at the Stratford Regional Planning Commission. In this last section, the 3 sections, we also did a housing and demographics sections, I'm sorry. Those 3 sections, we actually provided some funding to the Stratford Regional Planning Commission to do that update, and they were able to use those funds to match funding through the New Hampshire Coastal Program. So we were able to have a pretty comprehensive job, and Roseanne, I know you were involved with it. They did a super job. We worked with Matt Sullivan, who's one of the planners there.
Yeah, he did a great job.
And it got a little contentious, not through any, I mean, with some of the public commentary, shall we say, that we received, but we were able to work through that, come up with some modifications to the plan, and move it forward. So anyway, that's what a master plan is all about. I have worked not only as a local planner and a state planner, working at the Office of Planning when we had one. We now have an Office of Energy and Planning. But I have worked also as a consultant working on the other side of the table preparing master plans. And to be able to do a comprehensive master plan from soup to nuts, which includes not only the research, the analysis, the public participation component, it includes, it's a really a major undertaking. And I know that some of the larger communities in New Hampshire have hired consultants to do the whole thing, soup to nuts. And we're talking of, pretty expensive undertaking, $125,000 to $150,000, which is, for a small town like Newmarket, a large sum of money to encumber in 1 year. So that's why we have a capital reserve fund. We're making progress slowly but surely. We have about a balance of $20,000 right now, and we're asking for a modest amount of another 10 to follow through. And as we move forward with the planning process this year, we anticipate to be working on some implementation items, but then to start working on the next chapter. And I will be working with the planning board to identify, of all of our priorities, what area should we be looking at next. And I think I've heard transportation is something that people want to see work on, and cultural resources. But I think we also need, and we're moving towards getting a good database, we need to work towards having a really detailed community facility plan. And I know that some of the departments, Rick Malasky's department has done a roadway improvement and management plan that was adopted by the town council not too long ago. And that really provides a good framework. I know we've talked about, we really need a sidewalk improvement plan. There's some areas of town that have higher density development that aren't serviced with sidewalks, and there may be populations that are in need of ADA, accessibility, that kind of thing. So I think, the timing is right for us to be looking in a comprehensive fashion at transportation. So I guess I would ask you if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. And I appreciate your consideration for this year's capital improvement request from the Planning Department.
Well, I think it's very reasonable because of I've worked on master plans and with committees and as a planning board member, and it is very time-consuming, and there's a lot to do with it. So it's something that we really need.
The question I have is, we've been attacking this like chapter at a time type of thing, which may be a great way to keep it alive, so it's not like a once every 5 or 10 year project that you pull your hair out for completely, and that redoing one piece makes you think about things that may be happening in the next piece. But to that extent, if we had that kind of every year or two do another chapter, would that be an operating type of expense that says you're really updating portions of this every year or two, rather than one big
Well,
massive.
I think what we'd like to be able to do is accumulate enough money in the capital reserve fund so we can do a comprehensive look to see
Okay.
how all these, and, planning each of these elements is not, doesn't operate in a vacuum, and they're interrelated and independent. And what we really need to do is start weaving the pieces together so we have an integrated, synthesized plan where all the pieces fit together and make sense and support each other. So I think that...
So you're looking at this as something that's going to accumulate to say, here's when we do the big project of putting it together, we're not really spending any money every year or two doing these chapters. That's being done voluntarily or...
Right.
Okay.
And, one of the in a small town like Newmarket, population under 10,000 population, I mean, we don't have a full planning staff. And I'm involved in a lot of different activities, from capital improvements planning to grants administration to reviewing development proposals to dealing with the public day in, day out. And,
And town
there's only,
projects.
with all
You do
due
a lot
respect,
with
there's
town
only one,
projects.
enough that one person can do. And
Yeah.
and we're very fortunate to have a very engaged citizenry and volunteers, but to really do the job, I mean, there's some really difficult questions and issues that come up, and, there are times when we need some technical expertise outside our area. And so I appreciate that the idea of doing it incrementally is probably, from a financial standpoint, you lessen the blow by spreading the costs out, but at some point, I think the town is going to have to really do the big picture review, and it's going to cost some dollars. And one planner working on 15 different projects at once can't do the job alone, I guess. And I say that respectfully.
No, that was, I was just looking at both were going on and it both cost money, but no, you answered fine. And I think keeping it up to date as you go along, up to a point, is fine. But
Right.
putting all the pieces together takes time.
Because as we do it, like you said, voluntarily, a chapter here and a chapter there, and then have someone come in and look at the work that's just been almost currently done and say, well, let's do this and tweak it this way so it is more comprehensive and it is all connected.
Right.
We've done some foundation work for the person coming in, and he can fine-tune it.
Right.
All at once, which is a good idea.
Great,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
see no problem with that at all.
Thank you for your
Okay.
explanation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration.
All righty. Now, we did mention, Russ, that for Wednesday's meeting, you have a conflict of interest with the school facilities. And we're supposed to start at 6 o'clock with Sean Gregg from Water and Sewer. And we have to add Matt Angel and Rick Mulaski.
Plus,
To
we want
that.
to start our discussions. Sorry.
Veterans
Yeah. And veterans, we were gonna,
Veterans, too.
discussion.
and discussion.
If there is any way to start it earlier and finish by 6:30 or 7 o'clock, that would be great. I recognize it may not be possible. I have the school facilities, which
What time does that start?
at the moment it starts at 6:30 unless it changed by the time I got home again. I'll let you know. We were supposed to have a long session on figuring out a recommendation for the school board. That may have been put off, so it may be a shorter and less intense meeting.
Okay.
I'll let
But-
you know, but if we can start, if everybody's available at 4:30, 5 o'clock, or 5:30, then we can take some of this new stuff and do it a little earlier.
What's your schedule, Kyle? Are you available at 4 o'clock on Wednesday?
I gotta check
That
here.
would be a little late. That'd be,
4:30?
yeah, but I mean,
Wednesday.
I am leaving Portsmouth at 4.
Okay, so say 4:30.
4:30.
So
But
say
I- you know,
4:30,
I can be okay to be,
a little late
if you
if we
did
start
4.
early.
If you
Okay.
did 4, I would be 20 minutes late or something,
Okay,
depending on the traffic at that hour. So if I miss the first half hour.
how are you, Diane, for that? If
I am
change?
available.
Okay,
We just have to coordinate with the
the-
people who are coming, just to make sure they can do it.
exactly.
I would think that they would be pleased that it was earlier rather than later.
Yeah,
So that is.
I don't know about Phil.
that's the 28th. That's Wednesday.
Apologize
Wednesday.
for interrupting. So we're talking 4:30. I'll probably be a late meeting, correct?
May
We're
not.
trying to get Sean, Matt,
Rick, and then discussion.
and then veterans,
Well,
then discussion.
the other,
How long is
you know,
discussion
we've
typically?
talked about maybe having a fallback date if we needed it
Yep.
at the
Friday.
end.
Friday.
And, you know, that would leave Thursday and Friday. And it, you know, I was kind of tongue-in-cheek saying, I don't want to do it on Saturday, but if we had to, we have to.
I'll
Um,
be there.
So I didn't know what the availability of the committee might be.
Friday, I'm not good. We can kill it. We can kill it on Wednesday.
Do you have any problem staying later, or you just have to know so you
No,
can make
I-
arrangements?
Right.
I would just like to try to do it all in that one day, you know,
Yeah.
so we don't all have to redo our schedules to come back again.
If we could start it at 4:30, I just think it gets us out earlier.
Right.
And if we can get the presentations over with by 5:30,
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe we can finish off in an hour and a half.
Okay. all right, so I guess we're all in agreement to change the start time for Wednesday, September 28th meeting to 4:30 instead of 6 o'clock. And Diane, you'll have to get in touch with Sean, Matt, and Rick to let them know
Yeah.
what times they'll be here,
And
in veterans,
outreach to Phil.
to fill,
Right.
or, and then save some room at the end of their presentations for discussion.
So
Okay.
that's 2 hours.
1, 2, 2.5.
2.5 hours.
So what happens if we don't get, we're not finished, and you have the school board
Well, we'll have to
Um,
schedule a,
come back
Let me,
later?
let me,
We'll
yeah.
have to reschedule
The
another
answer,
meeting.
well, no, I mean,
No.
if we're discussing and talking about the meeting, personally, I feel we're getting into a rhythm over the past couple of years, okay? Though we may quibble on which project has to be tomorrow or whatever, I think everybody's done a pretty good job of saying this is what we need. I don't think we're gonna recommend significant differences in dollar amounts that
No.
people are asking for. In projects, probably not. In priorities, maybe a little bit. But I don't think that's gonna change the funding recommendation that probably says we still need $1 million, and then Steve will make the decision of how much we can
Right.
afford.
Because we have fine-tuned it
Unless
so
you're
much.
coming up with disagreements, and I haven't heard, we used to have a
Yeah.
little more tension in some of this stuff. It's, you got vehicles,
You know, yeah, because I think we have streamlined everything over the last few years so that all the department heads know, and we don't have any, not disagreements, but our opinions don't differ that much now with what they're coming forward with. They all seem to be things that are really needed and reasonably, something that the town should consider. So I think Russ is right in that. So I think discussion shouldn't be all that much.
But I don't want to limit you or anything like that. If you have some thoughts and stuff that gets us thinking in a different direction, I'd be delighted. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk, but
Yeah.
in the
But
past,
from
we've
what
had
we've
some,
seen so far,
had some
yeah,
wars.
unless the next three come up and we're all turning gray, well, I'm already here, so.
When Rick wants to put the sports package on the.
Yeah, no, not this year. All right, then, so Diane's going to check to see, and you can email us,
I will
hopefully.
email you and get the meeting posted, and
That'd be great. And it's in this building, so if I have to traffic back and forth.
Okay,
that's
very good.
the other thing is you gave me some good comments, editorial-type comments on the spreadsheet, and I realized in hearing the presentation from Recreation that section needs to be looked at again.
Yeah.
So I will update all the data, I will double-check the data, and Mr. Simon, if you'd like to lend a hand in that process, that would be helpful.
Sure.
If not, I might
In
be able to
between
get
meetings.
through it by
Get it,
myself.
get it rerun and
Okay,
send
and I'll
it to
send
me.
it to you, and you can double-check it
Yeah.
for me. There is a
We may
a
check
spread-
it after October 1st, so the
Yeah.
number could be wrong.
There is a backup to this spreadsheet that we'll show the detail. And I'm working on fine tuning that too. I just didn't have a chance to present it today. And we'll get that done, and
Okay.
we'll be hopefully in a good position and move forward once we get through the presentations on Wednesday.
Yeah, okay, I'm fine.
Good?
And thank you for all the good work in getting us all prepared, seriously. I know this is,
Try hard.
and you have a right to say, I sent you that, and I'm looking at this pile of paper, and every time I touch it and take
No,
one
there's a
thing
lot
out
of
of a
paper
folder.
here.
yeah.
There is.
And,
So, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Totally
okay,
appreciate
certainly my pleasure.
Okay, so
it. Would you like a motion?
we set the next meeting. Okay, yes, so I would,
The only thing that's hanging out there is the school, and I wouldn't mind having either Diane or you just send a reminder to Meredith that says, we'd at least like to get a schedule of when you need your drop dead dates. You know, I know you got more important things at the moment, but give us a hint.
and we don't want to cut our time short with that like we ended up doing this year. Next year we're
No,
starting in
I've
July.
discussed it with her, and what I've sort of positioned, if it makes sense or not, just take another minute, is to say, look, you're doing the school thing. It's going to either pass or not pass. What I think you need to do on CIP is forget what we're going to vote on. Make a list of the things that say, if it doesn't pass, here are the things that we have left go fallow for the past 8 or 10 years, whether it's $3 million or $8 million or $10 million worth of stuff, from HEVAC to security to whatever. Put that as your CIP, saying, hey, within the next 2 to 3 years, I need to either fix this stuff or get it done new as part of a major program. And then we'd have a CIP that may blend into the vote that says, if you don't vote for the school, then recognize you're voting for a smaller loan to do these things over the next.
Okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to change the start date of our meeting for Wednesday, September 28th. Instead of 6 o'clock, we'll entertain starting at 4:30.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor? Aye,
See you Wednesday.
okay.
Adjourn? Huh? We need to adjourn.
Motion to
That's the
adjourn?
next.
I'll make a motion.
Second? Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? Aye?
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.